Okay, it looks like we've got around 41 participants, so people are slowly coming in. Stragglers can come in as they will, but we can just kind of get started. So, Sandra, do you want to just do a quick welcome for everyone?
Sure. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, which I think pretty much everybody in this conversation does, I'm Sandra Kubat. I am the undergraduate academic advisor at the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, aka the best one on campus. I'm so happy to see so many familiar names that have joined us today for the Study and Intern Abroad session. As many of you are aware, our school on campus has a very high participation rate for studying abroad. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for those of you that are thinking of going abroad at some point in the next academic year to be able to learn a lot more about what that experience is going to be. We're going to talk about a lot of different facets of this, and there will be time in the Q&A in the end. And I can't encourage you enough, while we have two experts here, please ask questions if you have anything at all you're wondering about with the possibility of going abroad. This is the forum to do it. So really excited to see so many of you. I'll be presenting a few slides a little bit further down the road, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our experts.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Ali Garbaz. I'm one of our exploration advisors here at IAP. My job is basically just to do general advising for students who are interested in studying abroad. I'm kind of like a first point for students who are just looking into the process and kind of trying to narrow down programs and look at the ones that are the best fit for them. If you do come into our study abroad office and you want to know more information, I might be your first stop, so we might meet again later on. Morgan, do you want to quickly introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, so I'm Morgan Pennings. I am a marketing coordinator here for the IAP office. So I do a lot of promotion for our study abroad programs. And today I will kind of be working in the background, sending you all some lovely links to learn more about everything that we're talking about. And best practice is to kind of save those as we go because it's hard to get the chat back once we close the meeting, but we will be sharing out the links afterwards.
Yep, so definitely keep your eye on the chat as you go through the presentation. There's also the Q&A box where you can leave questions that we'll answer at the end. You can also just use the normal chat as well, but they may get lost as we start putting in all the links. We're going to turn off our cameras for the presentation for the sake of bandwidth, but we'll be back at the end of the presentation for the Q&A session. So we'll just get started now. All right, so the Central Study Abroad office on campus is called International Academic Programs. That's where we work, which collaborates with academic units all across campus to provide study abroad, domestic study abroad, and international internship opportunities. All majors can study abroad. You can start your journey at the IEP office, or we also have separate advising locations for CALS, the College of Engineering, and the Wisconsin School of Business. Together, we offer over 250 programs in 65 different countries on 6 continents. The only one missing on that list is Antarctica. Maybe we'll get there one day. So who can study abroad? All majors can study abroad. All majors are welcome and encouraged to study abroad. In fact, the top 5 majors who do study abroad are finance, psychology, poli-sci, marketing, and economics. And I think journalism and mass communication was number 9 on that list. So you guys are pretty high up there. You can study as soon as your freshman year, all the way to your senior year, and we also have programs for graduate students, transfer students, and professional students as well. Over 200 of our programs offer classes taught in English, so you don't need to know a world language in order to go abroad, but we do also have programs that have language immersion options as well, if that's something you're interested in. And in addition to study abroad programs, our office also has domestic study away programs, including locations in Washington, D.C., the Rocky Mountains, the Florida Keys, Puerto Rico, and even more. A number of factors will play into your decision to study abroad. Here we emphasize 3 main pillars. That would be your academics, your professional goals and skills, and then your personal development and your personal goals in general. Academics are things like the courses you're going to take abroad, how study abroad fits into your graduation plan. And then professional skills is things like, do you plan to do research or an internship abroad? And how is this study abroad experience going to affect your future job and career options, or like post-grad as well? Personal development, you can think of that in terms of things like, how do you want to personally grow during your experience abroad? I like to frame it sometimes as things like bucket list items too, like who do you want to meet while you're abroad? What cultures do you want to experience? Things like that. So if you come into our office for advising, this is a pretty basic question that we're going to ask you. It just kind of gets you thinking about every asset of the study abroad process and kind of how it's going to affect you as a whole. Starting off with academics, you will earn in-residence UW credit for all courses taken abroad, so you can make progress towards completing your degree and stay on track to graduate on time. All grades are recorded on your transcript, you earn letter grades for them, and they go towards your UW-Madison GPA. It's important to note, not that this applies to you, but maybe you're double majoring in engineering. If you go on a College of Engineering program, you receive pass-fail credit instead of normal letter grades. You'll also stay continuously enrolled at UW-Madison while you're abroad, so that means you will hold your place in line for things like course registration or university housing if that's something that applies to you. If you're pursuing an honors degree, it's also possible to receive honors credit on certain programs. Again, like I said, the majority of our programs offer classes taught in English, and many also have options to integrate an internship, fieldwork, or a research experience. And students in most colleges and schools can graduate abroad at the end of their program. It does depend on your degree plan and things like that. So that's something to talk about with your academic advisor if that's something you want to do your last semester on campus. So yeah, it's definitely important to be in talks with your academic advisor throughout your study abroad planning. One way that you can start planning your experience is by visiting our online major advising pages or maps. These highlight the essentials that you need to know about studying abroad in your chosen major certificate. You'll find suggested times to study abroad in your degree path, questions to ask your advisor, and also a list of recommended programs that are essentially endorsed by the various departments and majors. Usually on those programs that are listed there, students of that major have been able to go and get major credit. That is not an exhaustive list of programs that are open to you, but just ones that have been recommended. There is a map designed for journalism and mass communication. This video kind of shows you how to navigate there. If you keep scrolling, there would be a letters and science section on our maps page, and that is where you'll find the one for journalism and mass communication.
All right. So as far as going abroad, I mean, as we discussed, we are the #9 major right now on campus to go abroad. Most of our students at some point do go abroad. So it is a really great opportunity to be able to do some credits. We'll talk a bit about some of the more popular programs that our students tend to go on. But I can't recommend it enough. Check out our map page. That's really where you're going to essentially start. If you are double majoring, you very likely can go abroad, especially because you can only double major with other majors in the College of Letters and Science. It usually makes selecting classes a lot easier. Next slide, please. So when do you typically go abroad as a student in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication? We do have some sophomores that do go abroad. I think it depends on when you started the program. As many of you are aware, you need to have 3 semesters at UW-Madison in Madison physically in order to meet the journalism and mass communication requirements. So we tend to see the most participation in studying abroad junior year. So usually second semester, junior year. I myself was a product of study abroad. I also went junior year, second semester, and I can tell you it was the most rewarding experience I had in my undergraduate program as well. But whenever you want to go, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, there are definitely great classes you can take. But junior year tends to be the time. That way students come back, and then that gives them senior year to do potentially their 400 level classes, maybe wrap up some of the 500 and 600 level classes, especially 600 if they weren't able to find those in their study abroad program. We do have a few students that will go senior year and graduate while they are abroad. I think something you'll want to think about if you want to do that is, do you want to be here for the Camp Randall ceremony? Do you want to be here for this the journalism graduation celebration event? If those are not as important to you, then you could potentially finish off your time at UW as a study abroad student. Very important thing to keep in mind when it comes to graduating and applying for jobs is it does take a while for us to get your official transcripts back. So we cannot get your diploma. We cannot have your official transcripts say everything you've done abroad until those transcripts come in. So there is just a little bit of a waiting game no matter when you go. But keep that in mind. Otherwise, you can really go at any given time. Next slide, please. So one of the most important tools I, as your academic advisor, can recommend is as you start to figure out the programs that interest you the most, of course, you'll want to meet with study abroad, but check out the course equivalence page for that program. That link will be found towards the very bottom of the page of the program you're interested in. So here's an example. IES Barcelona is one of the most popular programs that journalism and mass communication students will participate in. Oftentimes we get asked questions of what types of classes students take abroad. And generally, it's going to be intermediate social science, intermediate humanities, literature breadth. Once in a while, you will do a journalism or a strategic communication class. But I think a very important thing to keep in mind is journalism, especially that area, tends to be a very American major. So you're not going to see as many of those classes abroad. So to give you the most flexibility on what you take abroad, I usually advise looking at your DARs and going, okay, how much intermediate advanced LNS credit do I need to graduate? That's a great bucket to potentially do abroad. And what you can do is you can look at a page like this, and each of those section headers are sortable. And you'll see on the very right-hand side, it says open abbreviation key. If you click on that, another window is going to open, and it's going to tell you what all of those letters, the G, E, B, L, C, R, S, mean, and then what the letters below them correspond to. So as an example, if you look at column L, L equals level. The majority of our students tend to do classes that are either I, intermediate, or A, advanced. So having a list like this can be extremely helpful as you think about what specific classes you can do. I, as your academic advisor, can help you look at lists like this and pick out classes, but something very important to note, not all of these classes are guaranteed to be offered in the semester that you end up going abroad. So you have to be a little bit flexible as far as what you take when you're gone. So again, if you can do some of those big buckets like the intermediate advanced LNS, that's going to give you the most choices while you're abroad and moving you forward at the same pace that you're hoping to maintain for graduation. Next slide. So what are the most popular programs? Now, this is not an exhaustive list. I should mention that you're going to see many of these on our map page for journalism. But just to give you an idea, we have many students away right now in Australia, the Czech Republic, England, France, Ireland, Italy, and Spain. Again, the one I probably see the most is IES Barcelona. Otherwise, Sarisa, Galway, Paris, Westminster, and London. Prague is always a big hit, and then New South Wales is in Sydney, Australia. These are just a few places to start. So as you're thinking about what could have some journalism or strategic communication classes, where might be able to do a little bit with media, I think these are all great locations to at least begin with. But keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list of where our students go. You will be able to see through some of the resources with Study Abroad, some of the other potential options, depending on what experience you are looking for that you could do. But I would at least start with these to give you a place to go forward. Next slide.
Awesome. So kind of pulling it back more towards like general study abroad information, we can now talk about program structure. So there are three main program structures that we have in study abroad. Each program will fall under one of those three categories. We have UW signature, provider programs, and then exchange and direct enroll programs. So each one will differ in terms of the amount of on-site support you get, the type of people you're taking classes with, and just in general, like the amount of like amenities that are also given to you within like your tuition rate and things like that. So to kind of give a brief summary, UW signature programs are programs made specifically for UW students. It is a cohort of UW students being led by a UW professor to some location around the world. It is basically like the UW classroom moving just to a different country. The professor is there to teach a course that all students usually take. And then if you're going abroad for like a semester or something like that, you usually take other electives as well. These are great because the professor usually also has excursions planned, so they have a lot of like experiential learning, and things like housing are always provided. So if you are maybe going abroad for the first time and are a bit nervous, and kind of just want that familiarity, a UW signature might be a good option for you. You're just with your fellow UW Badgers, and you're being led by that UW professor. Similar to that, we have provider programs. So these are run by what we call study abroad companies, like IES, for example. These study abroad companies recruit students from all across the US at different universities and usually take them to these study centers abroad that they have built themselves and staffed by through their company. Like UW Signature, these provide a lot of on-site support. You have that provider staff there to run orientation, check in with you. They usually also have excursions planned, and they also provide housing for you. In terms of who you're taking classes with, you'll likely be, or you will be, with other students who are studying abroad, maybe not necessarily just UW students, but just other students from America who are studying abroad. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have exchange and direct enroll. These on these programs, you essentially just enroll as an international student at a foreign university. You are taking classes with local students there. Compared to UW Signature and provided programs, they have slightly less on-site support. If you had a question or a problem, you would likely just take it to the International Student Center at that university. It is a bit more of an independent experience. Things like housing aren't necessarily provided. You usually have to arrange that on your own, but you may have something like a dorm that you can apply to, or just maybe cheaper and easier to find an apartment. A good perk of exchange and direct enrolls is that since you're being enrolled as an international student at these larger universities, you usually have like a larger course catalog open to you. So if you're looking to take courses across a variety of disciplines, it might be easier to find an exchange and direct enroll just because providers in UW Signature can sometimes be more limited, but it does depend on the program. So program structure is one way that you can start narrowing down programs if one really calls out to you. Like maybe you're like, I don't really want to be with other UW students. I'd like to like, forge my own path type of thing. Maybe an exchange or direct enroll might be the best fit for you, something like that. This is just kind of the first step that you can use in terms of narrowing down programs from 250 to just a couple. So on that same note, on our program website or on our website, we have what we call our program search tool. If you click into that, there will be a variety of filters on the left-hand side. And one way that you can filter programs is by that program structure. So on the left there, the program structures are circled, and then it'll also be noted like in the program title sometimes. So the UW signatures have the UW crest and say UW signature. Exchange will just say exchange at the end of the program name. So that's an easy way to tell. The provider programs usually have some weird acronym at the beginning, like IES, CIEE, SFS. Those are the study abroad companies. And then direct enroll will just be the name of the university. But if you can't remember all that, that's totally fine, because if you go into the program page, the program structure will just be listed on the right-hand side for you to check out. All right, moving on, we can now talk about your professional goals. So study abroad can help you build interpersonal and technical skills that employers are looking for, such as enhancing your proficiency in a world language, practical application of fieldwork or research experience, and just opening your eyes to new perspectives. It's also good for like soft skills like adaptability, flexibility, communication, leadership, things like that. In addition to that, studying abroad can really help you stand out when it comes to things like job interviews or your graduate school applications. Sharing your study abroad experience in these situations can really help you be more memorable to employers and provide them really real life examples of having applied or developed the skills that you have on your resume. So it's a really unique experience and something that you could definitely take advantage of during your undergraduate time. So if you want to focus on developing your professional skill set, you may want to consider interning abroad. There are several different ways to do this through our office. The first one is finding a program that has an internship component. So looking for a study abroad program that also includes an internship. So you would be taking courses on this program and maybe interning like 10 to 15 hours a week. Some programs match you to an internship, others you may be able to give your preference. It just kind of depends on the program you're looking at. If you would want your internship to be the primary focus of your time abroad, then you may want to apply for what we call a UW signature internship or an external internship. The UW signature internships are developed exclusively for UW-Madison students. Sometimes we have alumni who come back and have connections, or we just have other connections around the globe. You will take a 3-credit virtual class to complement your cross-cultural work experience. That class usually has to do with like interning abroad and like developing your perspective on that. You can search for these opportunities on the International Internship Database and look for results with the words UW signature. Aside from that, we also have external internships, and that's if you want to identify your own internship abroad. You would work with our intern abroad advisor and bring them an internship opportunity. They would review it, and if they verify it and tell you that it's okay, then you would also be enrolled in that 3-credit virtual course so that you get academic credit while you're interning. For all of these options, you will receive international health and travel insurance and be eligible to apply for UW-Madison study abroad scholarships. And in addition to international internships, we also have domestic internships. So on our Wisconsin and Washington program, which is a very popular program amongst students here. You intern for about 30+ hours a week in an organization in DC, and you also complete coursework designed to enhance your internship experience that is usually taught by local professionals. So it's a really unique experience. It's a very popular summer option for a lot of students. So if you're interested in working in the DC area, then that's definitely a program that I would recommend checking out. So here are a few examples of UW signature internships around the world that will be looking for students with journalism skills. This definitely isn't everything. There are actually a number of different internships with a focus on things like communications, marketing, social media, and other things like that, which are all areas where a strong journalism background is a great asset. So take a look at the International Internship Database to check out those different UW signature internships options available, and you can make an advising appointment with our intern abroad advisors to learn more about that. And you can also identify your own internships if those aren't the most appealing to you. You always have options. So in addition to your academic and professional goals, we know that there are many personal reasons influencing your decision to study abroad as well. This could range from things like making new friends, experiencing new places, foods, cultures, et cetera, et cetera. No matter what your personal goals may be, we do encourage you to think about the parts that make up your identity and reflect on how your identity may influence your program selection and experiences abroad. How you identify definitely could influence how you view your abroad experience and also how others view you while you're on your abroad experience. So it's kind of important to identify those different aspects of yourself and do some self-reflection before you go as you prepare to depart for your program. We have created identity web pages to help you reflect about your identities while in your program, including but not limited to first-generation college students, LGBTQ+ students, racial and ethnic minority students, students with disabilities, and a lot more. But we also do realize that identity is a very multifaceted and complex concept. So if you don't find resources that necessarily apply to you, you can definitely feel free to reach out to our office, and we'll be more than happy to connect you with resources and help you in any way we can. So this video will demonstrate how to navigate to those identity resources. It's just under Make Your Plan, and you can click into the various affinity groups and kind of read our resources about that. Okay, so next, students who are currently or recently returned from their programs are also a really great resource for a deeper understanding of what it's like to study or intern abroad. They will be a great resource in terms of learning about like what's day-to-day life like, what was the general impression of the program, and things like that. Things that you can't really just get off of a web page. So we have various resources that you can utilize to kind of connect with those return students. Those are located in the Student Voices tab on our program pages, where you can find things like photos, blogs, reflections, and things like that. You can also connect directly with past program students by using our Return Student Network. This is a database of students who have recently returned from their study abroad programs and have agreed to be contacted by prospective students who are looking into studying abroad. On that Return Student Network, you will see their name, their email, their major, the program they went on, and the year they went. So it's a great way to kind of connect possibly with other journalism and mass communication majors, students who have been to the same country that you've been to, anything like that. They'd be more than happy to answer your questions. You can feel free to send them an email, set up a Zoom call, anything like that. Forewarning, they will tell you that their program is the best program, so take that with a grain of salt. I mean, all of our programs are great, but they will probably be a little biased. And last but not least, we also have social media. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, we encourage you to follow us at IAP Study Abroad. Every week or usually on a Thursday, one of our students who is currently abroad is taking over our Instagram stories. And this is a great way to just kind of see like what day-to-day life is like and see kind of what study abroad is like from their perspective. Okay, so now that we've talked about your goals for studying abroad, we can talk about how to start narrowing down your program options, because there are a lot and it can seem overwhelming, but there are definitely a lot of things that you can consider that can really shorten down that list in a very short amount of time. So location is definitely the first thing that people think of. It's usually like, where do you want to go abroad? Sometimes that's not exactly an easy question to answer, but there are a lot of other things that you can consider. First off, we have academic credits. So what courses may you need to take abroad? Not all courses are available on all programs, so that can help limit things a bit. If you're planning on taking some journalism courses, then looking at that map and kind of seeing the recommended programs there may be a good first step, because those are programs where students have been able to get that journalism credit. Duration is also another factor. So how long do you want to go? We have semester-long programs, year-long programs, but we also have shorter ones that run just during the summer, over the winter intersession in like early January, and then also during spring break for just a week long. Another aspect is housing. So housing can vary by program. There are apartments, residence halls, local hosts. If you go to the Rocky Mountains, you'll be staying in a tent. So that's something to consider as well. And then we have program structure that we talked about, deciding between that UW signature, provider, or exchange and direct enroll. Classroom language, are you comfortable in taking classes in a language that's not English, or you just want to look for English options? And then internships or research. Does your study abroad program have those options, and is that something you're looking for? That's another great way to help narrow down your choices. Okay, so then we can take a quick tour of a program page. This is going to go way faster than I can talk, but it'll play on a loop so you can kind of see the different elements there. So basically all of our program pages are built the same way. They all have the same features, so they're very easy to compare once you know what you're looking for. On the right-hand side, you'll see things like eligibility requirements, the classroom language that the classes are taught in, the application deadlines, and also the program structure. On the bottom, we have all these different tabs that you can click into. So the first one is academics, and that'll kind of tell you about how classes are organized, how many credits you may need to take. And that's also going to include that course equivalency page that Sandra talked about. So that's where you'll find the courses that students have recently taken abroad, and then how that's translated back to UW credit. In the Life Abroad tab, you can find out more about housing and program excursions. In the logistics session, that'll tell you about if a visa is needed, and details about insurance and arrival into your host country. The cost and funding tab is where you'll find the program cost sheet, which includes the program fees and estimated additional expenses such as airfare, visa, and the cost of living. Keep in mind that the total cost may vary depending on your individual spending habits and your anticipated personal travel expenses. And then within the Student Voices tab that we just talked about, you'll be able to find the things like the Return Student Network, photos, blogs, reflections, and everything like that. And then finally, each program page will have a contacts tab. So each program is run by a 3-person team that includes our enrollment manager, who is the one who looks over applications as well as handles the course transfer back to UW-Madison. Our study abroad advisor is the person who actually runs the logistics of the program. So they're the ones who will be sending you off on your program, and they will be connecting with you while you're studying abroad in whatever program you've chosen. They're the ones you can talk to about things like housing, academics, life abroad, anything like that. And then the financial specialist is the person who handles billing and scholarships, so you can bring any questions about that to them. So one of the main questions that we hear during our sessions is, how much does it cost to study abroad? And we like to say in our office that it depends is like our favorite answer, because it does depend. It depends on the program you choose, how long you choose to go for, the country you're going to, the cost of living there, your personal spending habits, and things like that. So we don't have necessarily a universal answer for all of our programs. But while some programs do cost more than studying on campus, many programs cost the same or even less. So you'll want to visit the individual program pages, go to that cost and funding tab, and then look at those cost sheets to kind of compare those total costs of attendance. Financial aid can be used to pay for the program fee in some cases. So in the same way that it can be used to be paid for tuition here. For this reason, we strongly recommend that you apply for federal financial aid by completing the FAFSA. Even if you were denied federal aid in the past, it never hurts to turn that in again. And in addition to financial aid, there are a wide variety of merit and need-based scholarships. Just last year, I believe our office gave out $1 million in scholarships to students going abroad. And these are all going to be listed within the Campus Scholarship Hub, WISH, the Wisconsin Scholarship Hub, as well as on each program webpage. And we also have a number of resources available to help you financially plan for your program. So first, we have a budget worksheet that'll help you identify anticipated expenses so that you can start creating a more complete picture of how much your program may cost. We also offer free passport photos for all UW-Madison students, faculty, and staff to help reduce the costs associated with applying for your passport and/or visa. And in addition, our pre-departure loan program helps students pay for their program acceptance deposit and flight booking costs if you don't have ready access to those funds. So this interest-free loan will be billed to your student financial account through the bursar's office at the same time that your program fee is due. So that's a good way to kind of offset some of those costs at the beginning and pay them back later. And lastly, we offer financial aid drop-in advising and funding info sessions to answer questions about funding your program. I believe we have a Funding Your Abroad Experience webinar on Tuesday of next week. That's on our events calendar on our program webpage, so you can check out there for the event details. So to recap, here are some next steps that you can take right now and just begin your study abroad, like looking into it and kind of researching your program. So the first one would be to identify your goals, those personal, professional, and academic goals that we talked about. Think about what those may be and how those may impact your choices for studying abroad. After that would be to meet with your advisors. So meet with your academic advisor, Sandra, and then also you can meet with our advising staff here as well. Like I said, I'm an exploration advisor. I do general advising for students who are just starting out the process. So it may be best to book an appointment with me or someone else on our exploration staff. We also have our study abroad advisors who do more program specific advising. So if you have a program in mind already and want specific details, you can reach out to the program study abroad advisor. After that, it's important to talk to your friends and family and kind of tell them about your plans. We do have resources for families about things like health and safety and logistics and things like that that they can check out on our website. After that, consider your budget and apply for financial aid and scholarships. Use that budgeting worksheet that we have, attend our funding study abroad webinars, and just kind of look at those cost sheets to kind of compare and see how those programs will play out financially. Then you can connect with return students through that return student network or through social media, update your passport. The processing time for updating your passport is a long time. Sometimes it can take up to 2 months. So really the earlier you do that, the better. I believe your passport needs to be valid 6 months after you return for your program. So if you're kind of towing the line there, you might want to get on that process sooner rather than later. And then finally, apply to your program. Applications vary depending on what time of the year you want to go and for how long you want to go. So just be sure to check our website and check on those program pages because the application deadlines will be listed there. And you'll also be able to see which programs are currently accepting applications. Okay, so now that we've covered everything about study abroad, we wanted to add this video from a J-School senior named Samantha Stidham, who was awarded the grand prize for the IES Abroad Study Abroad Film Festival in Chicago. Her winning film, Take the Goggles Off, was inspired by her experience studying abroad in Barcelona last spring, and it teaches a very important lesson about finding the beauty hidden within very everyday moments. So Sammy is now a finalist on the Go Abroad Innovation Awards Academy for the best student video. And you can help her win by submitting your vote. It's a really great video. So Morgan dropped the links for the Google form to vote as well as the YouTube video. Morgan, do you think we have time to watch it now?
Yeah, we're right at time, so we can go ahead and watch it.
Okay, cool. We'll play that video then. Oops, sorry.
They say that studying abroad changes you. And as it is with most cliche things, this, of course, turns out to be true. Sure, you learn of other cultures and become more independent. You see more of this world and you realize you're such a small part in it. But what I did not expect to learn or realize is that I had been living, but only half alive. I know that might seem like a strange thing to say, but please, let me explain why it is that I feel this way. I met this girl on the coast my first week here in Spain, and she said something to me that got fixed in my brain. What she said to me is that if we could remove the goggles of habit, we would be overwhelmed with ecstasy. 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 In truth, the word seemed strange to me as I sat with her on the coastline of a country I'd never seen before. Ecstasy is what I'd been feeling since I walked through the plane doors. But that's the point. Nothing in my life was routine or commonplace. That's why just a walk down the street could make my heart race. I was 20 and dropped into a city on a foreign shore. Down every street, on every corner, there was something new to explore. from the curve of each building to the sidewalk I stepped on. Every second was an opportunity to have my life's currency spent on. But as time went on and my actions became habit, I hate to say it, but I began to lose a little of that ecstasy and the complexity of this planet. I was familiar now with the curve of my street, and I didn't notice the sidewalk's pattern beneath my feet. A walk through my neighborhood was just a way to get to where I needed to be. I didn't stop to notice the stone carvings anymore. I didn't wonder who they used to be. The goggles crept back over my eyes, and I was living, but only half alive. And I think there's a problem with this way of thinking. It makes us feel that the only time we're alive instead of simply living is when we're off on some grand adventure or some far-off shore. It strips away the beauty in the everyday, and it always leaves us wanting more. See, the majority of our lives are mundane and habitual, so what a tragedy it is to get caught in this perpetual loop of complacency and unconscious indifference. So can we change our fates? Or are we doomed? Are we Icarus? This lifelong labor against lassitude and lethargy, it makes us forget about the beauty and simplicity. So I could show you what you'd expect to see from a 20-year-old semester in Spain. But I'd rather show you what I've learned to see. The magic in the mundane. Now, don't get me wrong, I've seen things in my time here that I never thought I'd get to see. I've met people and been places that make me forget how to breathe. But my breath has also been hitched by the way raindrops stick to the petals of flowers. The intricate parts of this city that must have taken hours to carve or to mold or to chisel out of stone. It's the tree bark that lets forth speak without tongues, or the Spanish guitar in the light of the setting sun. It's the lizards that stopped and talked to me as I sat on a stone looking out at the valley. The life that springs forth through the cracks in the pavement, the succulents growing out of cliffs and embankments. It is the feeling of friends who understand who you are before you do, and that one person who reminds you that home is not a place that you can travel to. It is cheap wine and good conversations. It is falling into this world with no expectations. It is the fact that you and I are nothing less than remnants of cosmic rust. We are biological manifestations of pure stardust. The odds of your birth are 400 trillion to 1. Nothing, not one moment of this life should be considered humdrum. These are the things I remember the most when I think back to what that girl said on the coast. Living life to its fullest would surely be a lie if I still had those goggles fixed to my eyes.
So, yeah, you guys can use the link that Morgan put in the chat to vote for Sammy and show your support. So that does bring us to the end of our formal presentation. We do have about 20 minutes now for Q&A. So again, you can navigate to that Q&A chat box, and we will be looking at that to answer your questions.
And we do have some questions ready and waiting in our Q&A box here. So the first one is, what is the difference between a program that is just a provider program and a program that is a provider and direct enroll, like IES direct enroll?
Amazing question. Yes, it does get a little complicated there. So that basically means that the provider is the one hosting the program, and you do get the benefits of like a provider program, including things like housing that's guaranteed, maybe some excursions planned like that. But they do have classes that you can take directly enrolled to a local university. So the IES direct enroll, I think in Australia, right? You would be directly enrolling in like a local university in Australia. but the entire program is technically organized by the IES Study Abroad company.
All right, the next question is, I'm not sure if you were able to answer this, but do you know how being abroad for one semester would work with housing in Madison for your other semester? Is this an issue for some students?
So it does depend on your housing situation. If you are in on-campus housing, you will stay like enrolled as a UW-Madison student, so you will maintain your place in terms of registering for housing. If you are going away for a semester, that is something to talk to with the housing coordinators, like for your dorm, or wherever you may be housed on campus. If you are off-campus housing, technically there's no formal like process you go through. I know a lot of students like sublet their apartments or something like that, or they just pay rent for the semester if that doesn't work out. It really just depends on your personal situation and the resources you have available to you there.
All right, the next question, who would I contact if I wanted to ask about possible disability accommodations if I studied abroad?
So we do work closely with the McBurney Center. If you have questions about like how accommodations would work abroad, I would first take that to your advisor, your contact at the McBurney Disability Center, and they can talk to you about that. If you do have a specific program in mind that you want to apply for, you would then talk to the study abroad advisor here, and they can help coordinate with the McBurney Center and kind of talk through that process. And we do also have an identity resource on our identity page that is for like students with disabilities. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. I think the planning for that kind of situation might take, we recommend like 6 months to a year in advance, just depending on the nature of accommodations and things like that.
All right, next question, when do spring applications typically open?
There are applications for IAP programs and also programs for CALs will open the week of May 1st, and then they will be due around August, September, or October, depending on the program that you're looking at. Each program deadline will be different, so it's important to check the program page, and then on the right-hand side, it will have the application deadlines listed. 2025 again isn't listed yet, it'll be up in May, but you can look at the 2024 deadline and kind of see when those were due, and that'll give you a general idea of like the timeline of their different due dates.
And would taking advanced level classes abroad not count toward the required intermediate credits for a journalism major?
Sandra, I'm gonna pass that one to you.
Yeah, I'll take that question. So I think what you're referring to is each of you have 12 intermediate social science and or intermediate humanities breadth credits that you have to take as being a journalism major. It has to be intermediate level, not advanced. So if you take advanced level social science breadth or advanced level humanities breadth, that would not count towards those 12 credits. That will still count towards your intermediate advanced LNS 60 credits that you need for graduation. If you have any specific questions about that and your individual situation, please feel free to make an advising appointment with me and we can discuss that. I will say the vast majority of journalism and mass communication students do intermediate level credit abroad. You tend to not see things like your natural sciences really isn't taken abroad. You don't see a lot of math taken abroad with our students. But because you want to have, to some degree, a little bit of lightness in your study abroad schedule, because you want to fit things in like travel as an example and getting to do a lot of fun social things, we don't see a lot of students doing advanced level credit while they are abroad. So the general guidance we give is to try to stick as much as you can with the intermediate level credit while you're abroad. But of course, if you see a great advanced level class, whether or not it's in journalism, by all means take it. But for that specific requirement, it is at the intermediate level.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Next question, when do you recommend to start planning or having everything done if you're planning to go abroad in spring of 2025?
So I guess there's multiple answers to that. I honestly say the earlier the better. I have had students coming in to talk to me about spring 2025 literally since January. it's never too early to start planning and looking at your options, just kind of browsing our website and kind of looking at your different program options, whether that's on the journalism map or just the overall program search tool and kind of filtering for the things that interest you. When thinking about things like applying, our application, I feel like, is pretty straightforward. It does involve some essay questions, things asking you like, what are your personal, professional, and academic goals for study abroad, and what challenges do you foresee coming up while studying abroad, and how are you prepared to face those? Those are each, I think, 500 or 750 words. So they technically don't take a lot of time, but I definitely like recommend putting some thought into them, having them proofread, taking them to the writing center. After that, it's a matter of collecting documents they may need. So that may be like an official or unofficial transcript, depending on the program, passport information, and in some cases, you may need to apply to like the actual provider company or the foreign university that you're doing an exchange on. If that's the case, we will have a step-by-step guide in our application on our website. So you open an application through us and we will basically tell you everything you need to do. I usually advise students to give themselves at least like 2 weeks to be working on that application, possibly more. There are certain programs that do accept applications on a rolling basis. So for those, the earlier you turn in, the better, and they can reach capacity pretty quickly, depending on the program. So if that's the case, it'll be noted at the top of the program page in a bolded, italicized paragraph. It's just important to make note of that as you're looking at programs. In terms of like preparing to go abroad, again, we talked about like the passports, looking into like documents you're going to need to get a visa, doing all that earlier, even if you haven't been accepted onto your program, just like for ease of mind. I definitely recommend, just because like the bureaucratic stuff can definitely take a while. So really the earlier the better, but those applications for spring 2025 don't officially open until May 1st. So you kind of have a month to like be doing research before the applications even officially open.
Awesome. I just want to make sure I didn't skip this question. When do spring program applications typically open? Did we already go over that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, perfect. And then Sandra just added to the chat that many of her students ask if you can apply to more than one program at a time. And so what's a good answer for that, Allie?
The answer is no. So you can only have one open application for the duration that you're applying for. So if you're going for spring 2025, you can only apply to one program for the spring semester. That being said, so you do have to narrow it down to your top choice, but it's never a bad idea to have a backup plan, especially in the case of some of those more competitive programs. Competitive in this sense just usually means that we have more students applying than we have spots available. In the case of competitive programs, if you don't happen to get onto your first choice one, your application will close, but then you can open another one for programs that are still opening or still accepting applications, or someone from our team will reach out to you with programs that are still open, or on a case-by-case basis, they may be able to open up previously closed applications that are already full. So to go back to the question, only one open application, but have like a backup plan just in case.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Another question, if I am double majoring in psych and choose to take courses abroad that are mainly for psych, will that affect my track to complete a journalism major?
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. So it depends on how many journalism classes you have left. As we've said a couple times, we have many double majors in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Sometimes when they go abroad, they do more classes in their other major, or perhaps they have a little bit more focus in a certificate, because as I mentioned before, journalism especially tends to be more of an American major. So there may be some programs you won't find any journalism classes, and that's okay. If you decide you want to do more classes in another major or for a certificate, I would just run it by me as your academic advisor to make sure that you have enough time upon return to be able to finish what you need for journalism. One other thing I'll mention academically that I recommend to students a lot is oftentimes when you go abroad and come back, we advise, if you have the ability to do so, to consider doing a summer class with the SJMC or at UW-Madison as a whole when you come back, even if it's just online, because I think it has been very helpful for students who have been away a semester to reacclimate back to UW, to reacclimate if maybe you were in a country that was predominantly in a foreign language. Sometimes it can help a little bit with that adjustment back to our education system here. And we do offer a lot of journalism classes as well online in the summer. So if you do end up taking classes that are outside of our degree program and you want to make sure you can play a little bit of catch up when you come back, doing a summer class with us is a great way to be able to do that.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Starting a few questions from the chat here. If you're a transfer student who started in fall semester 2023, are you eligible for most programs?
I believe you should be. I believe you just need to be at UW-Madison for one semester prior. There may be certain requirements for specific programs, so that'll be listed on the eligibility requirements on each program page. We also have a transfer student resource as well that I believe that's under our identity resources possibly. So I would definitely check that out as well, and there may be more specifics there about the eligibility and things like that.
And then another question from our chat here. How does university housing work abroad? How far from campus / cost, etc.? And what is the process like if you don't want to go through university housing?
So that does depend on the program. Again, it depends is our favorite answer here. That is something that you can ask the study abroad advisor because they will have specific details about the locations of the housing. Some of them can be right on campus, some of them may be farther depending on just the layout of the campus. Some are spread over multiple like cities. It just really depends on where you're going. If you don't want to go through university housing, if it's something like an exchange or direct enroll, you may choose to just like get an apartment or like a one room around the city. If it's something like a provider program or UW signature where housing is provided for you and like part of your tuition, that would be something to talk about with the study abroad advisor because it may be harder to kind of get out of that housing because it's already like part of your tuition and what you're paying for. So that's something to ask the study abroad advisor once you narrow down your program options. But the housing types will be listed on the right-hand side of the program page. So it'll just kind of give you a general gist there of like what the options are.
Awesome. And then one more question, is the cost of a program on the website in addition to the regular tuition?
No. So the cost on the program website is what you're paying for the entire semester. So each program will have a cost sheet broken down by semester. And on that cost sheet will be something called the IAP program fee. That is what you're paying, and that is what will be billed to your student account in place of your normal tuition rate. So that'll come through the bursar's office and you pay it as you normally would. For exchange programs in particular, those programs are unique in that you are paying like the same amount that you would pay for normal tuition here based on your residency status. So those cost sheets look a little different. It'll just say like tuition. You'll see the same number that you're paying here on UW-Madison's campus. And then the IEP program fee will be the same regardless of your residency status. And that's just to cover like administrative fees and your health insurance and things like that. So to go back to your question, no, you don't pay your normal tuition on top of this. This is just the total cost is what you'll be paying for that time you're going abroad.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allie. I am not seeing any more questions in the Q&A. We'll maybe hang out another minute just to make sure that we aren't missing anyone who's rapidly typing right now. But thank you all for joining and attending this session and asking some really, really great questions.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. If you are interested in studying abroad, definitely book an appointment with us through Starfish, or you can just email us. Again, exploration advising might be your first stop, and then after that, we can connect you with other resources, both in our office and across campus, to really help you kind of narrow down your program choices and get started on your study abroad journey.
All right, I don't see any more questions popping up in the Q&A, and I see our participants are kind of dwindling down a bit, so we will go ahead and close the session. Thank you all for attending, and thank you so much, Sandra, for helping today as well.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Have a great day, everyone.